Hi guys, this is Tim Queen, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to not be a total douche on social media. Now I want to start by telling you a little story that happened to one of my close friends, and she's running a podcast, and over the last couple of months, the podcast has grown quite popular and more people are viewing it. And as a consequence, more and more people want to be interviewed by her on a podcast. Now by today, she's getting sometimes 10, 20, 30 podcast applications per week. And one of those people who applied for a podcast recently sent her a really nasty message. It was quite one of those passive-aggressive messages. So he said, "Nice of you that you never replied to me. Thank you." And you could really sense the bitterness in this message. And I want to give you 5 reasons why this is completely inappropriate and how those 5 behaviors make you a total douche on social media. Not just in this situation, but in any other situation you might encounter. So the first reason is that you completely lack empathy. You don't understand how it's like to be an influencer, how it's like to be a podcast host who has grown to a certain degree of popularity. Now what happens is once you are getting popular on social media, you will get swarmed with messages. You get connection requests, you get messages, people writing you comments, people sending you emails, people visiting your website, people trying to reach out to you, and you get a ton of requests of people wanting something from you. And as a consequence, your time is very limited. You don't have time to engage with every single person. And especially if you are running a podcast show, you will get so many applications that you don't have the time to do it. So the first mistake is not understanding, not showing that you actually are part of this world. You're making yourself a total douche. You're showing that you are clearly not an influencer who doesn't have an understanding for the other person. Now, the second problem that you have is you don't understand how podcast shows work. Especially if you have a very popular podcast show, you will get a ton of applications. Now, not every person will be a good fit. Sometimes the personal background of this person, the experience is not something that would resonate with your audience. Sometimes the suggested topic isn't right for the audience. Sometimes your personality, your charm on camera, the way you talk is just not the right fit. And even if you are a good fit, sometimes it's just not the right time. And in such a situation, you will be put on hold. You will be part of this file. When the time becomes right, someone will pick you out and reach out to you and say, would you like to come on our podcast next month? So by not showing that you actually understand how this podcast process works, you're showing that you actually have no experience in this entire thing. It's probably maybe your first interview on podcast. And as such, there might be all kinds of reasons why someone doesn't want to interview someone who has no experience. So by showing off and getting aggressive, you actually make it impossible to get your first podcast interview under the hood. So you could use that to find your second and third podcast interview. Now, your biggest problem of all is problem number 3. You don't have self-esteem. Now, a lot of people, they are really low in self-confidence, and they have this secret worry that they're not good enough for the world, that something is wrong with them, and that everyone is judging them, everyone is pointing this out, maybe even laughing about them. What an idiot. They don't want this to be true, but they secretly worry about this all the time. And most of those people who have really low self-esteem, they are quite sensitive. And just the slightest bit of information of events happening that might indicate, it's not always true, most of the time it is not true, that might indicate that you actually don't like them, you don't respect them, you don't think they're of value or they're good enough. If they get the slightest sense that this might be the case, they often completely overreact. And then they start writing angry messages or get all upset, all emotional. Just by showing that you have low self-confidence is for me, an instant disqualifying factor. I would never get anyone on my show who has low confidence, because I feel you should be confident about what you do. You should be grounded as a person, grounded in your feelings. You should stand over such nonsense that someone isn't replying to you in time. Problem number 4 that shows that you're a total douche is you have no manners. Now, even if you have low self-confidence, even if you don't understand the podcast process, or the reality of a podcast host or an influencer, you might still have manners. Manners meaning even if someone is treating you impolitely, you're still showing respect. Meaning you reach out to the person politely and you just follow up nicely. You ask, hey, by the way, I sent you my podcast application last month. Did you have a chance to review my application? Would that be a good fit? Or would you suggest that I maybe appear on some other podcast? It's always great to get feedback, but you do it politely and with respect. And if you do this, you will actually get an answer. But by being like a passive-aggressive douchebag, and not even like saying that you're upset, but like feeling the need to push this out and tell the person in the face, this is really not really a good fit for any podcast host. That should be really clear. Be polite, be respectful. If you ask for something, or just take it and move on. Point number 5, why you're a total douche, is you have no intelligence and you have no street smarts. Now, if you would understand the reality of people who are running those podcasts, you would understand how the podcast business works, you would have worked on your confidence, and you would have worked on your manners. You would know that the best possible way to get on podcast shows is by applying to many different podcasts at the same time. Because you know not everyone will like you, some people will love you, some people will hate you. So you apply to multiple possible podcasts. And you're not getting upset about if they say no. It's just a thing of life. Not everyone likes you. It's just simple like that. And you're okay with that. And you move on. Now, if you were a smart person, you would apply to multiple different podcasts. You would smartly follow up and politely and respectfully. I would recommend you follow up after 1 month of not hearing anything, and then again after 3 months. And if the person is still not replying, you just move on, you just strike them off your list, and you ignore them. There is no need to tell them how upset you are. Sometimes people have difficulties saying no. Not every podcast host is perfect. If someone doesn't reply to you, most likely the case, they are too busy, there are too many applications going on, they might have forgotten about it. The least likely case is that they actually don't want to tell you no. But sometimes it happens. Not everyone is perfect, but you have confidence enough, you stand over, you think, okay, if they don't want to tell me no, so be it, I just move on. And since I already applied to 10 different other podcasts, it's not a big deal because I have other alternatives. Now let me know in the comments, what do you think about douchebags on social media? Have you encountered any other signs of douchebaggery recently? Let me know in the comments. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe for more entrepreneur mindset videos and how to succeed online on social media.